Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Locked On Clemson podcast. We're so glad you're joining us. Thanks so much for joining. My name is John Bivens. I am your host here on the podcast. You can give us a follow over at I Am John Bivens on X. Thanks so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast at and over on YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. And here on Locked On Clemson, you're getting all sports, you're getting all passion, and you're getting all the time here from us, where we're bringing you everything you need to know regarding Clemson athletics. Today is Thursday, June 27th. Today we're going to talk about the best offensive coordinators in all of Clemson, and if Garrett Riley will make that list. We're going to talk about the best NBA players that have came from Clemson, and we're going to end it with our everything, what we do every single week with our Turbulent Thursdays. We're so grateful for all of our sponsors, but today we're grateful for Gametime. Today's episode is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download Gametime app now, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And so before we get started on today's episode, I did want to hop on and tell you one thing. I apologize. I want to apologize to all of the listeners out there, audio and visual. Yesterday, I made two mistakes, and I misspoke in two different things, so I apologize for that. One, I said Brent Streeter was the defensive coordinator after we lost Venables, and that was incorrect. I know it was Wes Godwin. I know that's our defensive coordinator right now. I said Brendan Streeter because we're putting it together, this list, talking about offensive coordinators, and I was prepping for this episode yesterday before I recorded, so it kind of messed up a little bit, and so I apologize that leeway happened. I apologize that I misspoke. Just slip of the mind. Apologize about that. And also apologize about the Notre Dame slip up. I said we play Notre Dame this year. We do not. Again, just a slip of the tongue. I'm looking at all the ACC schools and I slipped up. So I do apologize. Want to make sure we correct those. Streeter was offensive. He was not defensive. Wes Goodwin is our defensive coordinator, and we don't play Notre Dame. So just wanted to correct that for you. We want to make sure you are giving us your time, joining us on this podcast. And we loved you, and we are so appreciative of all of you for doing that. We want to make sure that we're staying true, and if we ever do misspeak, and ever do bring you information that isn't true, we'll correct that. And so thank you for appreciating that. Hope you can accept that. So what that does mean is every other take that we've ever said has to be true, because we're not apologizing for it, right? Clemson is the toughest place to play in NCAA football. I wouldn't lie to you about that. I'm telling you the truth. Same with the ACC. We're going to win the ACC this year, be back in the college football playoff. I wouldn't lie to you. If I was lying to you, I'd apologize, right? I tell you the truth. That's all it is. But no, for real, I did want to apologize to you about all of that. But let's get jumping in. Today's episode, we're going to start talking about the best offensive coordinators in Clemson history, and if Garrett Riley can make that list. And so we're just going to dive right in. Some of these names you've probably all heard of. Maybe you haven't, but let's let you know a little bit more. Number 5, we're doing the top 5. Number 5 of the best offensive coordinator of all time at Clemson is Rich Rodriguez. He was there from 99 to 2000. He came with Tommy Bowden. So Tommy Bowden came over, and then shortly after, Rodriguez followed him after helping lead Tulane to a 12-0 season. So he came over, and man, he's jump-started our offense immediately. When he started his first year as our offensive coordinator, he increased our total yards per game by over almost 100 yards. We went from just over 300 to just over 400 yards per game offensively with Rich Rodriguez coming in leading it. So he's number 5. He had some great. He led some school records back then. He had some. It doesn't have any. He's lost those now, but he did set some school records. It was great. So yeah, shout out to him. He's our 5th best. Our 4th best is a little bit more recent, Rob Spence. He was known, Rob Spence's nickname was the Mad Scientist. He came in and he improved. He was just as much, almost as much as Rodriguez. Rodriguez helped improve it by 100 yards. Well, Rob Spence by almost 90 yards in his first year. The reason that Rob Spence is higher than Rich Rodriguez, if you're saying, Rodriguez improved by more, why isn't he higher? Rob Spence was here from 2005 to 2008, double the time that Rodriguez was. So definitely there. In his time, there was a couple years where they led the ACC in total offense and rushing offense, all different kinds of record. He helped them lead to like 2,500 rushing yards one year. It was crazy. His first 3 seasons there, Clemson won 25 games, and that was the most they've won in the stretch in a long time. So hey, that's why he coming out at 4 is Rob Spence. Number 3 is Jimmy Yaycock. Jimmy Laycock, and he was here for 3 years, way back in the 1970s. He came in, he won 27 games in that time, 27 games in 3 years. Led us to a good streak. This was the offensive coordinator when Steve Fuller was there. Steve Fuller was named ACC Player of the Year, and in '77, and Laycock was his offensive coordinator. He helped lead him to be the amazing player that he was. The year after, Fuller won ACC Player of the Year again, and again, Laycock was the offensive coordinator. So that success, that tandem right there between Laycock and Steve Fuller, got to be up there high. Number 2, most recent so far we've had on the list is Chad Morris. Chad Morris came in and made a change so quickly. Like the improvement that he brought to Clemson offense was almost immediately. Like it was so quick. He came in 2011. We won the AC championship that first year. In his tenure at Clemson, they won 41 games and appeared in a bowl game in all of those, 2 of them being BCS bowl games. So it was great. Again, he set records just like everybody has. He averaged over 40 points per game in 2013, which was led by good old Chad Morris. So that's why he's up there. He broke some records, helped this team reach new levels that they hadn't been to before, help promote them, help lead them in areas that we really hadn't seen before that. And so that's why he is listed here at number 2 spot. And the best offensive coordinator that we have had all time at Clemson University, I'm kind of cheating here. It is Streeter. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not. That he did not make the list. Nowhere near made the list. He wouldn't have made top 10. But kind of cheating here. Our number 1 best offensive coordinator that we've had is a tandem. It is a little 2 people coming together. It is Tony Elliott and Jeff Scott as they co-coordinated from 2015 to 2019. That stretch was really what catapulted Clemson into being the national level program that they are. Tony Elliott, Jeff Scott, they were named right before the bowl game in 2014. And they came together, and Dabo put them together, and they did amazing. They co-teamed together. They led them to two national championships in 2016 and 2018. It helped recruit 2 of the best quarterbacks, the 2 best quarterbacks that Clemson has had. They did absolutely amazing. Led them to the 4 in a single season. Like if you take 4 consecutive years for Clemson University, that time period where they're there was the best years that Clemson has had offensively in so many different categories. They were great with points. They were great with yards, with recruiting. It was great. It was great to see them. So definitely by far 5, 4, 3, 2. Way up here is 1 with Tony Elliott and Jeff Scott. So they're the best offensive coordinators of all time. Now, will Garrett Riley make that list? I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe the reason I say I don't think so is I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to create this momentum. He's going to get this team back to doing what they can do, what they are able to do. But with that being said, I don't know if he'll have the tenure there to put this together. His first year here wasn't a huge success offensive coordinator, right? Like our offense, that was a hard spot last year. You have the defense we had with a better offense. We're dominating, right? So his first year, he's going to have to do a lot of stuff to outweigh that first bad year he had. None of the other 5 names or 6 names that I read had a bad first year. All 5 spots of those, all 5 offensive coordinators, 6 counting Tony Elliott and Jeff Scott doing it together, but all 5 of them had amazing years from the beginning to the end. Like, yeah, of course, you're going to have a down year if you're there for 4 or 5 years, but he had a great first year. Garrett Riley did not. Then let's say Garrett Riley turns it on. Let's say this year he becomes the guy we expected him to be, that guy that he was at his last school. He comes in and he does that. Well, even if he does that, I think with his brother, Lincoln Riley, being a very well-known head coach, already how well-known Garrett Riley is, I think he won't be at Clemson too long before another school scoops in and offers him a head coach job, especially in today's game. We're not seeing a lot of coaches with long tenures. Dabo Swinney's one of the longest remaining, but especially coordinators, I don't think he'll stay there long enough to be able to make that list. So with that being said, I don't think he'll make that list. I definitely don't see him leading us to 2 national championships in 4 years. That means 2 of the next 3 years he leads us to it. That'd be amazing if he did, but he'd have to do that just to tie Tony Elliott and Jeff Scott. I don't believe that that's there. That is why I don't have him. I don't think he'll be in our top 5 coordinators of all time. But that's the list. That's our opinion. Let us know your thoughts. Drop a comment. Hit us up on Twitter. Let us know what you think. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to dive in some basketball because, draft time's around. So we'll see you in a second. MLB is in full swing. Very little is better than game day at Clemson University, but MLB games are right up there. I love going to different ballparks and feeling the vibe and energy of the stadium. My go-to place for tickets is the Gametime app. Gametime is an authorized ticket seller for all MLB games, and they're the easiest place to go to for all your ticket needs. Whether it's the advance or the day of, prices with the Gametime app actually go down the closer it is to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guaranteed, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Some of my favorite things about them are I love the fact you get 60% off when you're buying last minute tickets. I also love the fact that every single seat you buy, no matter what stadium, has a panoramic view that you're able to see what you're going to see when you're in your seat before you buy the ticket. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app now today on the App Store or Google Play and use code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And so now it's basketball season, right? Like it's basketball. It's not basketball season, but it is basketball time these next couple of days with the draft happening. Round 1 was last night. Round 2 is today. Can't wait to hear PJ Hall's name called. That's going to be so exciting. We're excited. We're stoked about this. We can't wait to see what happens there. So we thought we'd keep this basketball energy vibe going into today's episode, and we want to do a segment talking about our 5 best Clemson players to play in the NBA of all time. This is obviously not including Hunter Tyson because he's still in the NBA and he hasn't proven anything yet. But these are the 5 best alumni to play in the NBA and have a successful NBA career. I am not saying the most talented basketball players. If I was saying the most talented basketball players, I'm going to let you know Skip Wise would make the list. Skip Wise is probably the most talented player to ever play for Clemson basketball. I'm not including that. PJ Hall might make this list as well. Obviously, he hasn't made it to the NBA, so we can't put him there. So this is not most talented Clemson players of all time. This is the best NBA careers from a Clemson alumni of all time. So with that being said, we're going to give you our top 5 and dive right in. Number 5 would be none other than the Tree Rollins himself. He spent 19 years in the NBA and scored almost 6,300 points. He had a great career. Overall, his percentage-wise, he didn't light up the boards with anything or anything like that. He averaged a total of 5.4 points a game, 5.8 rebounds a game, 0.6 assists, and 52.2% from the line. He's a center from Winter Haven, Florida. He had a decent year. He played with Cleveland, Detroit, Houston, Orlando. He ended his career in 1994. But overall, he had a decent career. He ended up with over 1,000 turnovers. I don't know if he wanted me to say that, but overall with rebounds, he ended with 6,750. So 6,750. He had a great year. He had a good career, solid career. He's a name that everybody knows. He was in the NBA. He played well. He is athletic. He's a big man. He comes in at number 5 for Clemson. Coming in at number 4 is none other than Dale Davis. He spent 16 years in the NBA, had 8,706 points while he scored there. Dale was a power forward from Toccoa, Georgia. Toccoa Falls down there. They got a beautiful college campus, but he was a first-round draft pick. He was drafted in 1991, pick 13 from Indianapolis. The Pacers drafted him there. He played for them until in 2000, where he went to Portland, spent 4 years there, 1 year stint with Golden State, went back to the Pacers for a year, and then finished his career in 05 and 06 with Detroit. He had a decent career. He's seen a little bit more average stats. His career stats were 8 points and almost 8 rebounds, almost a full assist, and shot 53% from the line. Excited to see that. He had a good career. Overall, he had a really good career. I was happy to see him. He played there long. He was in there 16 years. So not as long as Tree Rollins, but he was a successful career. Really happy to see. I love being able to watch him. This is a player that I actually got to watch a little. Tree Rollins, I didn't get to watch, but Dale Davis, I remember watching him in the NBA. I was born late 90s, so I saw him in the NBA, and my family knew that I was a Clemson fan early on, and so they kind of let me watch it. They kind of let me stick through it, that kind of stuff. But it was cool. It was cool to watch him. When you break down their stats, he averaged pretty well, double digits for a while. There's a cool stat ESPN puts out that is points per 40 minutes. And overall, he had double digits in that from 1992 to 2002 and 3. So 11 years he averaged over to double-digit scoring in the NBA. Like to see that. So Dale Davis falls in at number 4. Number 3. None other than the Eldon Campbell himself. Eldon was a good player. He was another center, another big man, another first-round draft pick. He was drafted in 1990, round 1, pick 27 from the Lakers. Fun fact for Eldon, from 1990 to 2000, he was the leading LA Laker player in that decade. So great player. He's from Clemson. He's from Los Angeles, California. So he left California to come all the way to Clemson, played a good career at Clemson, and then went back to LA. Overall, he averaged 10 points and almost 6 rebounds a game, 46% from the field. He ended up playing a total of 15 years in the NBA, scored almost 11,000 points, had 10,800 points in his career. So he had a good success. Looking at those advanced stats we talked about, points per 40 minutes, he was double digits his entire career, except for 2004 and 2005. That was his last year. He only averaged like 1.6 points, but he did great. His highest he had was 01-02. He finished with almost 20 points in that span. 96 and 97, he had 18 points. So he started off his first year, he had 15 points per 40 minutes. So excited. He had a good career. Really excited. A lot of people might have him higher. A lot of people might have Eldon Campbell a little bit higher there, but we have him at 3 on our list. We're going to take a quick break before we do that, and I'm not a break as I add, but I just want to say this. It's kind of exciting, ain't it? When I'm reading off these names, I don't know about y'all, but I get a little encouraged because it's like you hear about Clemson basketball, and honestly, the last 20-plus years, 20 years, we haven't really had a lot of NBA caliber players. We hadn't had a lot of people that really made some noise. Our basketball program got to a point where it was mediocre, and now it's starting on the upcoming. But I just like going through this list, and some of y'all are like, why are we even talking about this? And it's because it's encouraging to hear this. We just talked about a guy who played in the league for almost 20 years, and he averaged double digits a game for a while, or per 40 minutes, for a long time, for the majority, almost all of his career. And that was just the third best. So I'm doing this just to kind of bring a spark, to say PJ Hall's on the NBA. Let's see. Hopefully he can make a good impact. Hopefully we can see a player play competitive basketball in the NBA, make a real difference, getting some real minutes from Clemson for the first time since the Booker brothers. KJ McDaniels did for a little bit. Blossom Game only played 1 year. It really didn't get play a lot. But so that's why I'm doing this. It's encouraging, and I hope it can encourage you as well. Number 2 is Horace Grant. Horace Grant's my favorite NBA player from Clemson, not favorite basketball player from Clemson. My favorite basketball player from Clemson is DeMonte Stitt. But Horace Grant is the second best in our opinion. He spent 17 years in the NBA, had 12,996 points. He was drafted another first-round draft pick in 87, pick 10 with Chicago, and he played in Chicago 88 through 94. Got to play with Michael Jordan a little bit, so that's cool. Got to win that ring. So I'll love to see that. Love to see him with Clemson with a national or NBA national championship ring. But he played with Chicago from 98 to 94, Orlando 94 to 99, Seattle for 1 year, Lakers for 1 year, Orlando 2 more years, and then finished his career in 04 with the Lakers. He had a good year. Overall, he averaged 11.2 points per game, 8.1 rebounds per game, 2 assists, and shot 50% from the field. He was a big man. Horace Grant, he's a monster. He was a big man. Like to see that. Per 40 minutes, he was double digits in all of his years for per 40 minutes, except for 2. 1990 and 2000, he only had 9 points, and then his last year only had 8 points. But other than that, he was double digits, and he was consistent from 88 to 89 or 88 to 98. He was in that 13, 14, 15 range, hitting 16 twice. 2000, like we said, dropped off, and then early 2000s in doubles was 11 and 12. So he had a successful career. He's number 2, and the best player to play in the NBA from Clemson is none other than Larry Nance. No, this is not Larry Nance Jr. from Cleveland. This is his daddy. He was a great player. He's from Anderson, South Carolina, was drafted in 1981, 20th overall pick to Phoenix. He had a really good career in the NBA. He only played for 14 years, so he had the lowest tenure out of all this list. But in those 14 years, he scored 15,687 points, highest scoring player in the NBA from Clemson. He had a great career. In the NBA, he scored 17 points per game, 8 rebounds, 2.6 assists, and shot almost 55% from the line. He had a really good career. He's one that people don't remember him a lot, but they should. He played well. From 82 to 87, he played with Phoenix. Spent 1 year with Cleveland in 88. He got traded to Cleveland in the middle of 88, and then spent from 89 to 94 in Cleveland. That's why it was a big deal with Larry Nance Jr. playing in Cleveland. Kind of had that, the symbolic feel. Your dad played here, you play here too. So that was cool to see. But yeah, he had a great year. He had a great career. He should be talked about so much more. He should get more recognition than what he does get. When you go to advanced stats, he is the only one that hit 20 points, and he never drifted below 20 points when you go, or below 10 points when you look at points per 40 minutes. He started his career rookie year, 17 points, 18, hit 20 points from 84 to 87, and he was back and forth between 19 and 20 until 93, where he went 18, and his last year in 94 had 16. His highest in that period was 87. He had 24 points per 40 minutes that year. He also had 10 rebounds per 40 minutes that year, and he hit that stat a couple different times. So by far, Larry Nance is the best player to play at Clemson University in the NBA and have a successful NBA career. So that's our list. Let us know your thoughts. Who do we miss? Who would you have put on that list? Remember, it's not most talented from Clemson. It's best NBA career from Clemson. So would you change up our list? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree? Let us know in the comments or on Twitter. We're going to take one last break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up with our Turbulent Thursday. We'll see you in a second. And here we are back on the Locked On Clemson podcast. So Turbulent Thursday. What that is, and if you're new here, here's what it is. Every day of the week, we try to have a regular segment that we end the show with, just so you know what to expect, just so you know what you're getting. We go through Monday, we have Momentum Monday, where we talk about what's happening, or we have good momentum, bad momentum, indifferent, what's going on with Clemson sports. After a game, if basketball's playing, and P.J. Hall had a great game, a career-setting points, and we'd be talking about P.J. Hall's momentum and what he's done the past 5 games and what we expect going forward. In football season, if we drop a game to Georgia and we get blown out by Georgia week 1, not going to happen. But if it does, that's not going to have good momentum for the rest of the year. So we'll talk about what that loss might mean. So that's what it is. Tuesday, we have Tracking Tuesday, where we go through and we talk about what the recruits are doing, what's happening, what recruits are going where, what's the latest buzz with our prospects, our recruits that we're trying to get. Wednesday is our Worried Wednesday. You can check out yesterday's episode for that. We just highlight some topics that Clemson fans are worried about and talk about what we can do about it, what we need to see. Friday's Flashback Friday. That's our shortest one. We just go through and we talk about stuff that happened on that date, important things in Clemson history. Thursday is probably one of my favorites. It is Turbulent Thursday. And this is where we go through and we just dive into some hot takes. We go through and we talk about some hot takes that people are saying on Twitter or internet or in person or all over the place. And we just go through and we dive into these hot takes and talk about what they really are. And so the first one we're going to talk about, and this is going to be a short one because of how ridiculous it is. I don't know if y'all have heard about it, but Texas A&M's coach is on fire right now. He is their head baseball coach, has recently agreed to sign with Texas University and be their head baseball coach. So he is leaving a program that just got to the College World Series, the finals in the World Series, lost that, but he's leaving that program to go to Texas. And the rumor is that he made that deal before the regionals or before the super regionals. So, which isn't allowed. That's not okay. Like, especially to lead your team and not say it. So he's underwater right now. People are attacking him. And it brought up the conversation somehow on Twitter where people are now saying that Eric Bakich is going to leave Clemson. The coach from Clemson, who just in the Super Regional lit the crowd up, showed so much emotion, talks every single interview about how he loves Clemson University, how he loves the players, how he loves the environment, how he loves coaching with his friend Jack Leggett. That coach, people are saying now that he's going to leave Clemson this year. Ridiculous. That is a terrible hot take. You can watch I'm not even going to spend a lot of time on this because you can watch any interview with him and you'll hear how much he loves Clemson. He's not going anywhere. He's coming back. He's going to be in there for a while. I could see him retiring with us. The fans love him. University loves him. Graham Neff, our athletic director, loves him. He's not going anywhere. So that's a hot take that's not even a hot take. That's just a dumb take. He's not going anywhere. The second thing we want to talk about, and we spent some time talking about this yesterday, is EA Sports put out their hardest places to play on their new game. College football's coming out next year or next month, July 16th if you pre-ordered it, 19th if you didn't. And they put out their list of their top 25 hardest stadiums to play in on the game. And it's supposed to represent the hardest places to play in real life. Clemson came in at 12th on that list. And so if you didn't catch that, go listen to yesterday's episode. We started the show talking about, it might have been 2 days ago, but we started the show talking about what our list was, who we thought. Clemson should be number one. But the hot take that I'm talking about is I've heard so many people talk about this list. And honestly, the hot take is the list itself. Because here's the problem. I was talking to a good buddy of mine, Michael Craver from Duke Blue Central. Check out his podcast if you're a Duke fan. If you're a Duke fan watching this, hey, welcome to Clemson. Come join us. But I was talking to him about it, and I think the problem is this. I don't know what they went to measure the stats and to measure what they measured the hardest stadiums to be. If they did it on winning percentage, there's no way Texas A&M has won. They win on winning percentage at home. Alabama is the best. Clemson is a close second since 2014. Since the playoffs, we're tied for first with Alabama. So there's no way that they win on winning percentage. If they win on vibe alone, some of the most vibey stadiums in the nation. Texas A&M is up there. That's why they got one. Tennessee with Neyland Stadium. If you've never been to a night game, it don't matter who they're playing, go to that. The crowd is electric. That vibe is a vibe that is on fire. It is a crazy vibe. Another one, Virginia Tech. Inner Sandman is nationally known. One of the best entrances of all of football. They didn't make the top 15. So if you're going on vibe alone, how is Tennessee 12? How is Virginia Tech not up there? That doesn't make sense. And if you're like, Clemson does have a big vibe. All right, well, we got 12th. So on that list, maybe that makes sense. If you're going on based on solely how loud it gets, okay, if you're going on how loud it gets, all right, I get that. Do you know what stadium has had the loudest football game in the stadium? It's Oregon. They hit 130 decibels one time. According to a website, according to an article I was reading, Oregon has the loudest game that has happened in recent years. But yet Oregon was like number 10. So I don't understand. I don't understand what vibe they're going with. I don't understand what they're hitting, what they were measuring their takes on, what they were measuring this list on, because it feels like it's all over the place. If it's winning percentage, perfect. Well, Alabama was 2. Why is Texas A&M 1? If it's vibe, why is Alabama 2? They should be lower. Why is Neyland Stadium with Tennessee 12 or 13? I don't understand that. Clemson is 12 right there. If you average all the stats together, if you average winning percentage, attendance, that's another thing we haven't talked about. Is it attendance? If that's the case, all that stats is jacked up because there's so many other larger stadiums than what was listed. So if it's attendance, then it's not right. If it's vibe, the list isn't right. If it's winning percentage, the list isn't right. If you average all 3 of those or all 4 of those together, Clemson averages at like 7 or 8 if you put all those stats together. Why are we 12? I don't understand what their measure is on. So the hot take is to have a list at all. Don't put out a list if you're not going to say what you based it on, because a list without basing it on anything is just a bunch of names and schools on a piece of paper. So the hot take is don't trust that list. Don't take that list to heart, the list that EA Sports put out, because it doesn't matter. If you want a real list, go to the list we put out on our episode. When we talked about it, we based that on the vibe and winning percentage put together, because at the end of the day, if you're winning at your home, it's a hard place to play. But there's also the factor of, do fans still show up when the team isn't good? Virginia Tech, yes. Alabama, we don't know, right? There's so much different play. FSU, definitely not. So there's so much things to say. There's so many arguments to have. That list is just a booty list. It was something to put out there for people to talk about. So that would be the hot take. And with that, all that being said, we're going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Clemson podcast with that. Later on this week, tomorrow, we're going to dive into more football, so make sure you join us there. Hey, let us know your thoughts on today's topics. Let us know your thoughts on everything we talked about over on Twitter, or you can let us know a comment over on YouTube. We'd love to have a conversation with you about that. If you haven't, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast, wherever you get your podcast at. And if you're watching us over on YouTube, hit that big red button for us. That way, every single day, this can be your first listen here on the Locked On Clemson podcast. We can't wait to see you on tomorrow's episode, but until then, keep that Tiger pride alive and roaring, and as always, go Tigers.